Welcome to the Ages of Rock podcast with your hosts Bill Aucoin, Dennis Talbot, and Alan Tate. We are three guys who have one thing in common, a love of rock and roll. Our goal is to talk about all things rock. We hope you find this show intriguing, funny, and occasionally highly opinionated. Enjoy!
Hey, welcome to the Ages of Rock podcast. I'm one of your fine co-hosts. Don't laugh. I knew you would probably do that.
Now. It was funny before. It's not funny now.
This is take number 2. Anyway, this is episode 122, and we do have a guest tonight. We have Roman Fernandez. He is Bill Aucoin's partner for many, many years. He's got something that he wants to get done in his lifetime, and we're going to help him out doing that. And you will find out about that during his interview and find out a lot of other great stories about him and Bill. And, basically, it's not all Kiss. It's basically, you find out, he was in a band, actually. So there you go.
Let's call it a project. He's working on a project that he wants to see come to fruition.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a big word. Is that too?
Yes. Throwing in big words. He got the thesaurus out there. I can't even say it. Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, before we get going though, I do have one thing. This morning I was on my way to work, and and for you guys to also, this will be put out May 31st. So.
Squirrel.
I'm trying to get this all out. I cannot. We had this outline. How many months ago was this, Alan? We figured out this outline. We have not got it right yet.
On the way to work today.
On the way to work today, I was listening to a station that I usually don't listen to out of Madisonville. I don't get it all the way to work, only up to about 64. And there was a Guns N' Roses song on this morning. And I'm like going, okay, it sounds like Guns N' Roses, and it sounds like old Guns N' Roses, but I've never heard this song before. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I ended up Shazamming it, and it is Guns N' Roses' Shadow of Your Love. Ends up, this song it has been released before as a B-side on some other releases. And actually, at that one time, they put even crowd noises, kind of making it sound live. But they re-released it with this new box set that they've got coming out. They just released it like about 2 weeks ago. And it's called, like I said, Shadow of Your Love. And I was like going, holy shit, this is really good. And supposedly it was the first song that was recorded for the Appetite for Destruction album, but did not make the album. So I did post it on our website, and there is a video, and it's basically just a cartoon type video, or it's actually, the video is kind of cool.
Well, don't go looking on our website because he posted it on our Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook page. I'm sorry, Facebook page. Go ahead. That's my web anyway. But yeah, check it out. I mean, or just look it up. Just go to YouTube and put in "Shadow of Your Love," Guns N' Roses. Great freaking tune, and it fits on that album. Axl singing his ass off. It's just a good tune. So I'm gonna send it over to Alan because he went somewhere last weekend.
Alan be tripping.
I'd be tripping all the way to Oklahoma. We had our annual trip to the Rocklahoma Festival this weekend. This year I requested and was granted one media pass, so I got to go to the backstage area each day, and I think I ended up doing, I want to say, at least 7 interviews, and I might have made it up to 9 because I did a couple of off-the-cuff, weren't planned interviews because, a couple of the bands that I was supposed to work with didn't show up,
The band didn't show up at all?
Well,
or the people didn't show up for
the
you?
interview.
Okay.
All the bands that were supposed to played. But, I was in the backstage area. It is a madhouse back there. You got sound checks going on. Something doesn't go right. A band doesn't get off stage in time to go do their interviews. So those artists that I didn't get a chance to talk to, I'm going to try to catch up with at a later date and get them on the show.
It was really no fault of their own. It just circumstances.
That's correct.
Exactly.
So, you gotta take those interviews with a grain of salt, whether they come or whether they don't. The highlight of the interviews for me was I got a last minute shot to talk to Joe and Josh from Hailstorm. So
Cool.
I got a quick 5 minute interview with a couple of the guys from Hailstorm. Tim Salt, the guitar player from Clutch, I got to interview, and Nigel Dupree from the band Wayland. And if that last name sounds familiar to you, it should. But overall, the bands that I saw that I really wanted to see, I was pleased with the exception of the Cult. And the band itself was good, but Ian, I don't know if he was having an off night or if he just can't do it anymore. But he was, what the term we use, he was Vince Nealing the lyrics. Which, what is ironic is Vince Neil did not Vince Neil the lyrics this time.
Really?
Vince did a damn good job of singing. Well,
Really?
I should say Vince did a
Vince
damn
Neil.
good job of getting all the words out, whether you want to call it
Really?
singing or not. Yes, it was pretty impressive. Now,
The
I
he
had,
better
the
shape?
Vince Neil.
I
Like
had
the Vince Neil?
seen earlier on some of the set
Wow.
lists from earlier shows, and near the end of the set, the guy that is playing guitar for him now sings a song, and Vince goes backstage, and I'm pretty sure he's going back there, suck down some oxygen or something. But yeah, I mean, other than the fact that it was really hot and everybody looked like they were melting up there, they all did a really good job.
Did Vince?
Wow.
Vince looked like he lost some weight or anything? Because I know
No,
the last time I seen him, he was
he looks about the same as he did. Yeah, he's a little chunky fella.
Yeah. I mean,
How was
what
Tom
happened?
Kiefer?
Tom Kiefer was good. I was, he was one of the interviews that I got turned down for pretty quickly, and I was talking to one of the people in the media tent that was supposed to interview him, and because as hot and humid as it was outside, Tom canceled all of his interviews because he wanted to conserve his voice.
I don't blame him.
But Tom, he did pretty good for the temperature. There were a couple of times that you could tell he was struggling, but he brought it. Excuse me. The highlight of the Tom Kiefer set was he called Lizzie Hale out to do Nobody's Fool with him.
Oh, wow.
And fellas, for the first time ever at a live show, I got goosebumps and I got a big lump in my throat. She fucking owned that song.
That's good.
It took everything I had to keep them tears where they're supposed to be up in there, because men don't cry,
Oh yeah, they
whatever.
do. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
Well, I mean,
Just throw Gene in
Oh
Now,
my
there.
men at
God.
Rocklahoma shows may not. But
well, no, the men at the Rocklahoma shows are too drunk. Good Lord. It was really, really hot this year. It was humid outside. It was really, really hot. And I saw guys all around me that never did anything but drink beer the whole time. You guys got to hydrate, dude.
Did you? Was there any squirrels like messing with the electrical system this year?
No,
or
that was a bird.
Or
Was not a
bird,
squirrel,
whatever it
it was
was.
a bird. No, everything this year went
Yeah.
really, really smoothly.
I
The
know last
only
year was
thing
the
that,
best.
Vince Neil's sound check took them longer than normal.
Right.
So that caused a couple of other bands on the side stages to lose 10 minutes on their sets or whatever. Which one of those bands was Diamond Head, which was another surprise to me because I went to see them. They were really damn good.
Cool.
Yeah.
cool.
I didn't stick around for the Friday night A Perfect Circle closed the show. I didn't stick around for it because, I'm not a big Tool fan, and Maynard is kind of a dick.
Maynard.
But
Fucking Maynard.
I talked to somebody the last night of the show, and he said that for the Perfect Circle set, they had the stage lights so dim that all you could see was that there were 4 people on stage.
Wow.
It was just almost pitch black out there. And
Right.
if you saw Tool when they came to Evansville, it was kind of the same setup. Maynard
Kind of
stood off
different. They're
kind of
yeah.
behind the drummer a little bit, and I don't know, when they were in Evansville, his vocals were so buried you couldn't even really hear him sing.
Right.
It's like, what if you're a singer? Why would you want your vocals buried?
Yeah, most of them don't want it that way.
Yeah, most of them want it too loud.
Yep.
So are we
Cool.
going to do
Good.
are we going to do a full? We're going to do a full show on this, right?
No.
At some point.
Oh,
We're not.
jeez.
All right. So if we're not, I want to ask you, low point and high point of the whole weekend.
The
3 days.
The low point of the whole weekend, I can't say that there was one.
Right.
I would say the high point of the weekend was it's kind of a tie between Lizzie tearing up Nobody's Fool.
You almost cried.
And the drummer from Vince Neil's band, when they were doing Home Sweet Home, he went off stage real quick and come back out on stage as Animal. Had this big animal, and I posted
Oh,
I
that's
posted
cool.
I posted a link to that on our Facebook page. That was
cool.
funny as hell. I do have one humorous story. I had to send my wife a text Saturday night to tell her that she is no longer the only woman that has seen me naked in the past 25 years. Because I went to take a shower, and they have the shower trailers, and
Right.
I didn't lock my shower door. Don't know why. But I turned the shower on, turned around, started getting the back of my head wet, and this lady opens the door, and there she got to see it all.
Did she throw up? Or
She did not. She didn't close the door very quickly either.
So they weren't like men's showers and women's showers. These were co-ed showers?
Well, these were so co-ed showers that couples were showering together.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is the day after I had my incident, I was standing in line to take a shower again, and somebody opened a door on a couple.
Yeah.
They were
I
just
don't
getting dressed.
They were fighting over there because she kept hitting her head against the fucking thing. I thought they were fighting.
They were screaming. I wasn't sure what was going on.
Yeah.
I thought she needed to be saved. She kept hollering for me. She kept hollering, help me.
God. She kept hollering for God, and then she was like,
Good Lord, you just ruined the whole show, Dennis. Well, I guess that's all I have for Oklahoma. It was fun. I can't wait to go to next year. And if their acts are as good next year as they were this year, and the weather cooperates as well as it did, it's going to be a fine show. This year was probably my favorite year to go.
Cool. That's good.
Kelly told me I'm available to go if I got that weekend off.
Oh.
She's gonna let me go, so I may go with you next year. So when you get
think
tickets,
so?
you know what? I'll buy my own camper and go. Me and Bill, we'll camp at a cool spot. I would like to hit one of those.
I'm going to go to the M3.
I want to go to M3. Let's all do that. Let's do that instead.
We can't because they keep having pop-up expos that cost us $300 or whatever the hell it is.
We'll do that. Bill,
cool, man. Good. No, I got nothing, man.
Nothing.
I'm waiting for next week. Next week I got a concert, Poison, Cheap Trick, and
they were supposed to be playing tonight.
Poison and Cheap Trick and Pop Evil were all three at Oklahoma this year.
Yeah.
Yep. And
they were supposed
all I'm going to say about that is you will enjoy the show.
Yeah.
I'm sure I like Poison. I like them. I like all three of those. Well, I saw Pop Evil for the first time, and they were like, they drove up in a truck.
Yep.
It was one of the very first shows they did. So,
well, they're actually supposed to play tonight.
You say Pop, I say Evil. And I'm like, really? You're not. This is a rock show. That's not going to work.
Now they ended up canceling tonight in Nashville. They were playing at Sins area. That you
yeah. Really?
It got canceled. Well, that fucking monsoon's coming through Nashville right now. That eye of the storm.
There's a monsoon coming through Nashville. Seriously.
No, it's monsoon. The eye of that. No, it's the eye of that.
It's called a tropical storm on this side of the planet.
Yeah. Oh. Whatever. Monsoon.
I was trying to figure out how we got a monsoon in Nashville.
So anyway, they canceled that tonight.
Shit storm. I get. I'm not sure about
a shit monsoon. No, anyway, Zinzak actually had extra tickets, and I was asking for people to come out. And like I said, then they ended up canceling it for tonight. They rescheduled it. I don't know, sometime in
June the 28th, I believe.
Yes, late June, I believe. So, but Sin
That's
has
a good place to see a show. I like that show. I like that facility. It's really nice.
Yeah, it looks cool too.
It is cool.
I drove by it. It looks really neat. So
it is.
But anyway, let's get to our show. All right, we're back now, and we are with our guest Roman Fernandez.
How you doing, guys?
There you go. Glad to see you. for anybody who does not know, Roman was Bill Aucoin's partner for many years up until his death. We met him last week at the KISS Indie Expo, and it was, Alex, I tell you, it was a thrill to meet you because I knew who you was when I saw you, and you have a cause that you're working on right now, and I love the cause. And can you tell us just real quick before we get into deep about it, just real quick what it is?
I can, and thank you guys, by the way. Thank all three of you for having me on. The cause is, to put it in the shortest terms, we're trying to get Bill inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Why? Because KISS has been inducted. And we can get into all the hows and whys and why nots. But we believe if KISS has been inducted finally into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we believe that Bill should as well.
Exactly. And like I said, you are doing a petition. I'll just show this real quick. You've got it behind you also. Yeah. But they have a petition that's going for this. They're trying to get, 10,000 signatures. How many signatures you got so far?
That's our goal. We have, I think when we left the convention, we had close to 4,000.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think 3,000 were mine.
Yeah. Thank you guys actually for peddling the crowds over in our direction. That was super cool.
Well, that's what we want to continue to do. Before we get into that, though, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because us three, that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has been a subject that we've talked about since day one with this podcast.
I can't imagine why.
We love the fact that it's there. We believe that it should be there. We just don't like the politics and the way the thing is run. But we can talk about that later. Roman, real quick, before we get into it, can you explain, how did you meet Bill Aucoin? How did that become?
Okay, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. I was playing in a band in South Florida in 1990, I don't know, the early to mid 90s. And what had happened was this was literally our first gig with this band. Even though I've been playing with these guys for a number of years, we're playing, in the drummer's garage. And this was going to be our first formal gig, and they told me that Bill Aucoin was flying down to see us, and I'm like, I didn't know who Bill Aucoin was, first of all, but they told me, it was KISS's original manager, and I'm thinking, how is this happening? We were barely out of the garage, let alone ever played on stage together. And as it turns out, the two members of the band that I was playing in have been playing in another band for a number of years, a South Florida band that was poised to do very well. They never picked up a record deal or anything, but they were bringing in pretty big crowds in South Florida, a band called Vandal. And the lead singer was a big fan of KISS. And he had tracked down Bill and literally flew him down to see the band play one of their big shows in South Beach, which back then South Beach actually had a rock music scene, if you can imagine that. Where it's gone, I don't know. But in any case, so Bill saw the group, and he wasn't much into the group for no particular reason that he ever stated, but he really liked the drummer and the guitar player, and those were the two cats that I had been playing with for a number of years, just jamming around in the garage. And he had told those guys, listen, if you guys ever leave this band and put something together, let me know, and I'd love to check it out. And so they go, well, sure enough, actually, we have this little record we're going to put out. It was in a few months. And one thing led to another. We played our first gig, and Bill showed up to that, and that was that.
And was he impressed?
Nobody's ever asked me that before.
Well, that would be the first thing I would ask was like, was it worth the trip?
I don't know if he was impressed. I think he liked it enough to follow us to our second gig. Our first show was at a place, legendary place in South Florida called Churchill's Hideaway in Little Haiti, and everybody's played there. Marilyn Manson actually used to play that place quite a bit before they broke. So he thought enough of it to go from that show, which I think was on a Friday or Thursday night, to follow us to Orlando to play the Hard Rock Cafe. And actually, now that you've asked me the question, Dennis, was he impressed? He sat us down after the show, as I would witness with many, many acts that he would go see through the number of years that we were together. He sat us down after the show, and he told us what he liked and what he didn't like. And he liked it enough that he was our de facto manager for about a year, a little bit after a year, until I decided to leave the band. So yeah, I guess he was semi impressed.
Cool. And what did you play? One
played
thing I know, play bass.
Mm-hmm.
We've had more bass players on this show than
I say it's the place for bass players.
It's because bassists have the most amount of free time.
That's true.
That's awesome.
Was it the first bassist we got on here was from England? it was across the pond. Colin Parkinson from the band Inglorious.
Okay.
They're a relatively new band, new metal band over there, rock band. They're really, really good. It's great music, but yeah, they were across the pond. It was kind of strange. But
okay.
Yeah, we'll do your show. Sure. Who would you like to have? Anybody? Bass player. He's got free time. That's exactly what they said.
Well, as a bass player, all I've got to say is I resemble that statement.
The truth is, actually, I try to stay pretty damn busy. But I don't even know how we got. Oh, you said you had a lot of bass players on this show.
Yeah.
I guess we're a force to be reckoned with. We're a force to be.
Maybe you're the most vocal. Maybe they're the people they want to hear.
Perhaps
stand out.
We're an opinionated bunch. Perhaps I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Alan, can you attest to that? I don't know.
Yeah.
He's just
one. Okay.
Well, how many bands when did you start playing?
I started playing. God, I think I was like 14. Yeah, just messing around. I mean, I happen to be lucky enough. I don't know if this is the case for most of you around the country, but where I went to school, my high school, and most of my friends, everybody was a musician. Not everybody, but just about everybody was a musician, and not just like a marginal caliber musician. I mean, spectacular musicians.
Not my high school.
Well, again, we had more free time,
There you go.
No, man, but the truth is I was really lucky to play with a formidable drummer by the name of Derek Cintron, who's played with people from Scott Stapp to Enrique Iglesias. He's toured the world, to guitar players of the same ilk. And those were the cats that I hooked up with that, we formed this band with, that Bill came to see. So, honestly, I might have just picked up the bass to mess around. I was a huge fan of Geddy Lee growing up. And that's kind of the reason I picked it up. But it was really for fun. But I think the catalyst was these two cats, particularly those two friends of mine, because they were just fantastic players. And because of them, it made me a better player, And then once I stopped playing with them, I sucked again. And that's when I stopped. But yeah, so yeah, I started like 14, and I played through the time that I met Bill, and then after that, I stopped partly because, as you can imagine, it's weird. First of all, it's weird to be in a band and be dating your manager. Secondly, it's more bizarre when you're gay and you're dating the manager, and this is like the early to mid 90s. It was just kind of bizarre, and it wasn't a bad scene or anything. It got really weird. And at that point, I decided to concentrate on my own career in advertising and marketing. So I left the bass playing gig to somebody else. But ironically, after that, I played with another group for a little bit, or a solo artist. But then soon after that, I sold a bass, and that was that.
So with your advertising and marketing, was it mostly music type stuff that you worked with, or was this something completely different?
None of it.
Really?
Most of my stuff, at least when I was starting out, was in travel tourism, doing working on sandals resorts and
being in Florida. It's
yeah. I mean, that's kind of our bread and butter down here. Yeah. So no, but it wasn't until later, ironically, even though I took a backseat from playing bass, I was still a huge fan of music, and I love seeing live acts, and I'd go see a lot of local musicians. And I was introduced to this one group called Nothing Rhymes with Orange. And my buddy who was running sound for them said, "You got to come see these guys. I'm doing sound check and you're going to love them." And I was really into that kind of sound at the time. It was kind of a blend between Duran Duran, INXS, U2, Oasis, The Church. They had that kind of sound, which was not very popular in South Florida. And I fell head over heels for the group. And right away, I started working in marketing the group. And soon thereafter, I started actually managing the group, and we started doing college radio campaigns. And I introduced him to Bill, and I said, Bill, maybe you should, check this out. And yeah, Bill took a liking, and eventually he would go on to sign him to his last venture, which was not Aucoin Management, Aucoin Globe Entertainment in New York. And we worked that group for a number of years. Unfortunately, it never broke. It came close, but it never quite broke.
Exactly. So Bill worked up until he passed, then basically.
Literally, yeah, literally. I mean, he really his last trip right before he died, he was working, and a few of us who knew that the situation could be dire tried to stop him, but that was one of the things about Bill. You couldn't stop the guy. He was going to do whatever the hell he wanted to do. And
well, he managed Kiss, so he kind of had to have that mentality his entire life.
I don't know why I'm laughing, but I suppose so. Yeah.
Well, that's the drive that got them where they are. I mean, that didn't surprise me at all. I mean, I don't, I think that drive came from the guys too, but having that, they could have very easily had a different manager that didn't have that drive, and they could have never made it.
Listen,
that's.
Yeah, I'll tell you something, and I've had the pleasure of meeting all the guys, and I've known some of them better than others, and I know that they have a drive, but Bill is unstoppable. There is nothing that can stop that man. And for those, did you guys ever meet him at all?
No.
Did you really?
I met him in Louisville, Kentucky, at the 2001 Louisville Kiss Expo.
Okay.
And I actually spent probably a good half an hour standing out in the lobby talking to him during the expo. I was there with a couple of friends that I'd met from Ohio, and he just sat there and talked to us like he'd known us all of his life.
And that would be echoed by, I think, every person that's ever met him. That was one of the things about Bill. And listen, we can talk for 2 hours. I'm going to try to edit myself. That's one of the things about Bill that was completely magical. You heard the phrase, unlike anybody you've met in your life, but Bill wasn't like anybody you've ever met in your life. The second you shook his hand, you'd feel like you'd known the guy for years. And when he was talking to you and only you. And you had his undivided attention for the moment that you guys had a conversation. And he wasn't doing you a favor. Bill was earnestly just kind of a kinetic chemistry kind of guy. And he gave new definition to the term people person. He really vibed off of people, meeting people. And it didn't matter, as I've said before, if you were a hedge fund manager or if you were a third-rate musician, starving artist, it just didn't matter. Bill was really, really into finding out what people were about, what made you tick, and connecting. And that speaks, Alan, to probably the conversation that you guys had. He just vibed that way. It's very, without getting into too much personal stuff, to give you a perfect example, my mom, when I finally had to introduce this guy that I was dating who was twice my age back then, and she's a very conservative Cuban lady, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is going to be awkward. And Bill just wooed her, man. She just loved him from day one and until the day he died. And to this day, my mom's still at the dinner table. She'll bring up if she made rice and beans or whatever. Oh God, Bill used to love the rice and beans. And he just had this magic about him. And if you ever believed in something but you were unsure, man, Bill had a way of cementing whatever it was that you believed in and gave you confidence like you'd never had before. And he's the reason why I left my last agency and started my own and been running my own business for 18 years now. He was a person unlike anybody I've ever met. So listen, granted, as you said, if somebody else had managed Kiss, they may have made it. But with Bill at the helm, it was almost inevitable that they were going to make it to the degree that they did.
Well, and Bill bet his life on it. Bill had when people laughed at him and shut doors in their faces, Bill charged everything on his credit card. I mean, he paid for to get them and stay with them long enough to where they finally had that hit. And
listen, one could quickly and easily shrug it off as like, well, you know what? He was just financially, reckless. And he just said, screw it, I'll put it. Yeah. But no, when Bill believed in something, it was heart and mind. And the psychological warfare that people will engage in when you believe in something that they don't can be enough to get you to give up. And to Bill, it just wasn't. It just mattered not. It just, and that's not to say that he was ignorant. I think Bill was really keen at taking whatever useful information people had to give him in their dislike or their disbelief. And I'm speaking in general terms, not just about Kiss. I think Bill was really keen at surgically extracting the information from the naysayers that he thought was useful and applying that and making it work towards his goal. He really was a person unlike anybody I've ever met.
Like I say, once he believed in something, say like with even like Billy Idol, his company. I mean, people had basically give up on him too. And here
nobody wanted to touch Billy Idol. Same as Kiss.
Yeah, and he saw something in them, believed in them, and did what he did, and boom.
It's funny. I hadn't thought about this, Dennis, until you just mentioned it. The Billy Idol story may actually have been more improbable than Kiss. Why do I say that? Because when Bill took on Kiss, he had an ally in Bogart, in Neil Bogart. And Neil Bogart, he was on board, and he took on the bands. Within 30 days, he had a machine running. Now, Warner Brothers, that was backing, Casablanca, that was a different story, but Bill still had an accomplice and a believer in Neil. Whereas with Idol, Generation X was signed to Chrysalis, I believe, UK, and they were dropping Generation X. And their very own label, Chrysalis, in the States, wanted nothing to do with Idol. They just didn't care. So Bill didn't even have that. Right. He had to basically make something out of nothing. So in a sense, Idol actually had it even more difficult than Kiss, except for the fact that he was radio for whatever reason. Well, I think probably because it was the heyday of MTV, and MTV kind of picked up on it, and then radio picked up on it, whereas Kiss didn't have that. But from that perspective, at the very beginning, I would almost say that Idol had the stack, against him for having his very own label working against him.
Right. That's
incredible. I didn't realize that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, ultimately, Billy ended up on Chrysalis, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Well, Billy ended up putting him and Steve together, right?
Steve Stevens.
Yes,
but you know what happened? The way Bill told me the story was, the label wouldn't put any money into radio promotion. So Bill took the cash. He took whatever cash he could, and he had a handful of happening DJs in New York do remixes of Dancing with Myself. And at that point, their own vested interest was in the product, so they started spinning the crap out of it in the clubs. And so radio wasn't playing it, but the clubs were all spinning it, and they were playing whatever mix that DJ had done. And of course, then the crowd started requesting it, and that's when the radio station started calling Chrysalis, going, "Yo, guys, why can't we get this record? Where is this record?" And that's kind of how the whole thing began.
Right. Wow, that's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I had heard a story a while back about Bill, and I want you to. I'd like to, for these guys have not heard it, and I just think it's a great story. If you wouldn't mind telling it before we get into the nuts and bolts of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Does this story have something to do with a Middle Eastern country, perhaps?
Yes, it may have. It may have. But anyway, this is neat.
I'll put this into context. This was in 1999. I have been seeing Bill for about 4 years at this point. And this stems from the fact that, I was having a really difficult time coping with seeing this guy, and the fact that he would be recognized everywhere we went, which I thought was unusual, because I understand recognizing celebrities like, music performers and whatnot, not managers per se. I mean, unless you were like, I don't know, whoever. Anyways, so I was having a hard time kind of reconciling this, and we finally, for the turn of the millennium, for New Year's Eve of 2000. I had suggested to Bill, based on an old dare from high school, or not dare so much as a pact that I made with friends, that we would all get together at the pyramids of Egypt in the year 2000. And that was just kind of one of those silly high school pacts that you make. And of course, nobody kept it but me. So when I told Bill, I said, listen, for the millennium, do you want to go to the pyramids? And he was like, oh my God. And Bill's about anything that's over the top. So he's like, oh my God, the pyramids, that's awesome. Let's do it. So we went to the pyramids of Egypt. And, we did this and we did the show, which was fantastic. But then one day we thought we'd go to the actual Great Pyramid of Giza. And we ride through the desert on camels. I mean, like something out of a movie. It's hysterical. And there's actually more to that story, but I'll say that for another time. We get to the Great Pyramid, and I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but if you want to actually go inside the pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, you have to climb up what's, I don't know, probably like 7 stories of like boulders and steps. And once you climb up, there is an opening, and there's a shaft or a corridor that leads from the exterior of the pyramid all the way to the center, to the heart of the pyramid. And you can only go down one at a time, and you have to climb down this plank or this kind of makeshift ladder, and you walk backwards. So Bill goes down first, and I take a picture of him, and then I go down, and we get to the main chamber, and we're taking. This is before digital photography, right? So we can't take selfies. So I'm taking pictures of him against artifacts and stuff, and he's taking pictures of me. And we're like, well, this is kind of lame, that we can't get anybody to take a picture of both of us with, with all those other stuff. And but I'm thinking this is cool. We're in a 5,000-year-old pyramid. He's not getting recognized. Blah blah blah. And we're having a good old time. So as we're down there, a young couple from Sydney walks down. This guy and I guess his wife or girlfriend or whatever, and they walk down like, hey guys, how are you doing? Well, we're good. And we asked the guy, I said, listen, would you mind terribly taking a picture of us against these artifacts and stuff? And the guy's like, oh mate, absolutely, no problem. And so he picks up the camera and he's aiming, and he starts pulling it down ever so slowly, and he goes, I'm sorry mate, but would you happen to be Bill Aucoin by any chance? And I lost my shit that day, because I thought we had gotten about as far as you possibly could from that whole scene, and to be the only 4 people in the middle of this 5,000-year-old pyramid was just stupefying to me, and that gave me I think new appreciation for Bill and who Bill was and what I was becoming a part of. But the story doesn't end there. What was brilliant is the guy was in a band, and he had a goddamn demo in his girlfriend's purse, and he pulled out
You cannot beat entertainment like that.
Not like that kind of stuff.
Is that the greatest story ever? Is
I thought that could ever happen, ever, anywhere, except for maybe a Kiss fan, right, who recognizes Bill, I guess. I don't know. That is crazy, crazy stuff.
It's a good demo, though. Was it a good demo?
I don't recall. If it didn't make an impression, I'm guessing it was. I don't remember it being terrible, but it didn't make an impression on me. But I thought the cosmic significance of it was so great that we kept it, and it's in a box.
Yeah, in that pyramid that has cosmic things going on in it anyway. People think, and then talking about the stars aligning. What you guys didn't see, it was a big ray of light that shot out the top of it.
Pulled it out of the first. I'm sure there was a beam of light shooting up to the heavens.
That's exactly what happened.
That was the most surreal experience. So I think that it is not hyperbole when I say that it's the most surreal experience I've probably ever had.
It's kind of funny because I always say, I say this sometimes. It's a Kiss world. We're just living in it. So I think.
I think that's what became clear to me is that I can't help the way this world turns and how things kind of unfold when we've gotten about as far from society as we can, and this comes to us in the context of a 5,000-year-old pyramid. It was just bizarre. It was strange.
Yeah, that's funny. Cool. I'll tell you a real quick funny story that's not the same but somewhat similar. We were Grand Funk Railroad was going to play here at a local park, and it stormed really bad. And this is when Bruce Kulick was playing for, or well, he still is playing for Grand Funk, and it stormed really, really, really bad. And so they had told everybody to leave the park. It's an amphitheater. You have to leave the park. You need to go to your cars. Well, there was a group of us, about 6 of us, that stayed. We had one of those pop-up canopy tents. And so we put the tent down and just kind of folded it down. We just kind of huddled underneath there. Cause I mean, it was storming, lightning, and they said there was going to be a tornado, and it was just horrible. And, so finally the sheriff, this guy comes up and he's like shaking the tent, and he says, it's a sheriff. And he goes, you've got to leave right now. There's, really, really severe weather coming. You have to leave. So he goes, you need to shut the tent down and come with me. So we shut the tent down and went under the amphitheater, and we walk in, and I got my KISS t-shirt on, and Bruce Kulick he walks in, he goes, I knew it would be one of you. When they said they had to go rescue some people from out in the thing, that it was going to be a KISS fan. There's one of you everywhere. And then he signed all my stuff. I was very happy.
It would be one of you that had to be rescued from the rain, or
no, that would be the one out there just waiting. Right. It was funny. Then he took photos and signed all of our stuff. He was really cool. We spent an hour with him or whatever, but half hour, 45 minutes.
He's a good guy. Definitely.
Yeah, he was a good guy. But it was funny. It was that same kind of thing. It just says, it's, if it's meant to happen, it's meant to happen. If you're in the right place.
Look at the draw. Great. It's just, it's strange how things work.
It was really crazy.
Except for the fact that the band that Kulick was playing was actually playing where you were. We didn't have KISS playing at the Pyramids that night. That was just,
yeah, that's true. That is
that's
and it didn't play it all that night because it stormed the entire night. It was really bad. So
did you ever make it to the show? Did you ever get to see it?
No.
Oh, damn.
So it never happened, and I haven't been able to go. But for me, it was really about him just signing all my stuff. So he signed I had a backpack full of stuff, and he goes, I said, will you sign a couple of these? He goes, I got plenty of time. I'm like, great. I'm like, whipping stuff out.
Yeah, plenty of time. He's not a bass player.
Yeah,
lead guitar player. We have lead guitar players on the show too. We just don't have lead singers.
There you go.
Not very often.
All right. Well, Roman, let's get to the matter at hand here. Let's talk about our favorite place in the world. Let me see about this. Let me ask you a couple questions about this, because I'm curious about the process of doing this petition. Now, is there a certain time you have to have this petition done by, or what's the process? Can you explain the process?
Okay, let me pull the cat out of the bag. There is no process.
Oh.
As you might imagine, with this institution, there's no protocol, there's no process. Henceforth, what we're doing has no process. No, look at what we're doing. It's not like we're gonna get to a point with this petition and hand it over to one of the board members and go, there you go. Now you got to let them in. It's not going to happen that way.
Sure.
What we're trying to do really is raise visibility, raise acknowledgement. That's really what the petition is for. As you know, I don't know if you want to lead this conversation, but as you know, again, there is no protocol with the Hall of Fame. There's no particular process. And the mindset thus far has made a lot of people angry because many bands that people feel should have been inducted haven't been inducted. But I think because people have been voicing their opinion, you guys, Eddie Trunk, was raising hell for a lot of years. Why won't people stop contacting me? So it's the Hall. Stop talking about us. But I think because people have been voicing their opinions, because I think this has been brought to the forefront, changes have begun taking place. There's fresh blood in the committee now. There's a board that nominates and there's a board that votes at the Hall of Fame. And there's fresh blood in both. So with fresh blood come fresh ideas. So as long as that's happening, I think that's a good catalyst to raise visibility for our cause. There are those who say, well, the Hall of Fame doesn't really induct managers. Well, as a matter of fact, they do.
They do. Yeah.
They do. They actually induct a lot of people that work behind the scenes in music. And I only found this out recently from
engineers
writers,
and
producers, engineers.
Yep.
They don't get a lot of stage time on HBO. But yeah, they're inducted. And certainly with managers, there's Brian Epstein, who, by the way, I also found out recently was petitioned for 12 years to be inducted.
Wow.
I didn't know that. I thought Brian Epstein went in. I mean, that's, again, kind of a no-brainer, I thought. But that was petitioned for 12 years.
You got some work to do, pal.
Yes, exactly.
Year one.
It's gonna be an uphill battle. Well, listen, again, but that also happened while the old blood, I think, was in place, and I don't mean to call the old blood old or stale or set in their ways, but let's face it, with fresh blood come fresh ideas, and fresh ideas about who should be inducted. So yeah, Brian Epstein has been inducted. Loog, the manager for the Stones, was inducted, and certainly in the case of the Beatles, if they hadn't been for Brian Epstein, I'm not sure the Beatles. They might have been the Beatles. They might have had a few hits. I don't think they would have been the sensation that they became without Epstein. Same thing with Kiss. Again, I give them enough credit to say, they might have made it. I don't think they would have made it to the heights that they did. I don't think they would have reached the levels of stardom that they did without Bill Aucoin. And regardless, it's a hypothetical. Bill was there. Bill did make it happen. So again, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. So the idea is to raise visibility and raise visibility in the eyes of the voters, the nominating committee, and the fans, because ultimately. And I know some people have made comments about, well, the fans, their comments aren't really tallied. Well, they're not tallied in numbers per se, but they certainly can affect change, and they can change hearts and minds. In advertising and marketing, I know this happens. It's contagious. So I think the enthusiasm of the fans and raising the visibility, I think, will make all the difference.
Well, I think we've seen over the last couple of years too. So. Was it 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame started putting out the list and letting fans vote? So there was a fan vote.
There's but it accounts for very little.
But they have been. You have seen they are inducting people based on, at least not based on that, but they seem to be taking that into consideration.
But you make a great point. Just the fact that they've gone that far means that they're not tone deaf. They are listening. And listen, they're not going to kowtow to whatever we say. And, we think you should do this. But they're obviously listening. Change is taking place.
I think like you said, too, that some of the people who started the Hall of Fame are moved, they're not in control of it anymore. There were people, from the very beginning that said there's certain bands, as long as I'm a voting or on this board, they're not going to get in, no matter who they are. Mm-hmm. And, that's bullshit. This is this is a Hall of Fame for people who deserve to be in there.
Right. It should not be political.
And that, and the fact of even the way they treat their people that come in there now, they tell who is included in what part of the band can be included. Like with Kiss, they wanted just the 4 originals. What was it? Grateful Dead. There was like what 87 people. The bus driver, I think one of the dogs. You know what I'm saying? Some dude that just kind of just walked in. He got it. You know what I'm saying?
You're right. I mean, it's unjust. And if they had a certain formula or a certain protocol, that'd be great. But there really isn't. That's kind of an issue. Yeah. So again, I think changing times will bring about change. It's just a matter of letting things kind of play out and keep raising visibility for this particular petition.
So do you have somewhere online that the public can get more information about what you're doing, how they can help? Okay.
AucoinGlobe.com. Oh, actually, there's 2 URLs. There's Aucoin Globe. That was Bill's last company's website.
AucoinGlobe.com.
Right, but you can just go to inductbill.com.
Inductbill.com.
Yeah,
I'm not accepting. If they call me, I'm not accepting.
What they call you? I'm sorry, Bill. Yeah, you're cutting out on me a little bit. And nor should you have to, Bill.
Oh, I get it, Bill. Just kidding.
Sorry.
But it's kind of funny, because Bill and I had talked. Bill and I didn't talk about a lot of Kiss stuff over the years, but we did talk about the Hall of Fame. And Bill was convinced that Kiss would never get in, because he knew. I mean, let's call him out by name. It's Wetter. He didn't want it to happen, and Bill called him out by name. And funny enough, I don't think Bill even took an insult to it. And which, by the way, was one of the other awesome things about Bill. You almost could not offend that guy. It was nearly impossible, and he was seldom ever down. And when he was down, you'd look over your shoulder because you'd think that the world was coming to an end, because it just never happened. Bill was just up, and he always brought people up. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. But yeah, Bill was convinced that Wetter was just never going to let Kiss in, and Bill was kind of at peace with that. He was cool with it, because ultimately Kiss became what they became, and the legions of fans obviously spoke louder than the Hall ever could. So Bill was okay with it. But for me it was bittersweet when I got the call, just a couple of years after his death, to learn that they were being inducted. And I'm thinking, shit, could this not have happened a couple of years earlier?
Right. It should have happened, it happened many years earlier, but it didn't, unfortunately.
Do you think this is interesting, and I was wondering if he talked much about Kiss, but it's kind of interesting, the drive that Bill has or had. Do you think that drive affected Gene and Paul and just kept that band driving to where, even after he left and they parted ways? Because what you're describing is the behaviors that I see those two exhibit in driving that band to success as well, even today.
Listen, I would love to believe that, and maybe Bill did contribute, but I think from Bill's own words, I think those guys, particularly Gene and Paul, just had it there to begin with, and I think that's one of the things that drew Bill in. Besides the show, the songs, the spectacle, as I told you, Bill was kind of a people person. He was very, very, what's the word? He was almost an empath. Eh? He could feel what you'd feel, and that would motivate him, and it become a symbiotic kind of relationship that way. And I think the kind of energy that Bill felt from Paul and Gene probably made Bill, and Bill would have worked as hard as he could anyways, but I think it was probably a symbiotic energy is what I'm going to guess that they gave each other. Again, I can't speak to Bill and Gene, although I've met them, and I don't really know their ins and outs all as much as I knew Bill's. And I can tell you that Bill's inertia was unstoppable and contagious. So there might be something to what you're saying, but I think I have to give full credit where credit is due, because I think Bill and Gene had something there that touched Bill in terms of that energy.
I could see where Gene, especially, and Bill talking to each other. Gene's got grandiose ideas, business ideas. He's bouncing stuff off. Bill gets excited about it. I could just see where that relationship could just keep fueling ideas and like I said, the drive to want to be successful. They're just driving. Both of them are driving each other, going, "Yes, we can do this. We can do this."
And I want to be completely fair here, because I don't mean to single out Gene and Paul, because the truth is, actually, Bill never called them out by name. He meant the band, and he always said, that band was willing. Well, yeah, but they were willing to do anything. And I have to tell you, man, after being exposed to as many bands as I have that Bill has either worked with or tried to work with, there's not many bands. There's bands that might say it. There's not many bands that will do anything to make it. And I think Kiss proved that they were willing to do anything, and that they would not scoff at an idea. So, I mean, Bill would eventually talk about Gene and Paul separately, but I think in the context of the conversation of your conversation, Dennis, this thing about moving forward, he did refer to the band as a whole in the very beginning.
That's good. That's good though. That's good.
Cool.
So are you going to keep going to other expos and stuff, bringing your banners and computers and signing people up and getting the word out?
I can't make it to as many as I'd like to. Look, luckily, Bill started working with and made friends with Tom Feely, who Bill, you and Dennis met at the expo. Tom's become a great friend. Tom Feely used to work for the NFL. I don't know why I said that. I don't think he even likes it when I say that. He worked for the NFL for many years. But in the late 90s, he was also the manager for Enough's Enough.
Really?
Oh.
Yep. And he managed them for a number of years. And he was trying to get Bill to come on board and work with him. Anyways, that's a whole other story. But the point is that Tom and I became friends beyond Bill's death. We've remained very close ever since. And for the last couple of years, ever since Tom and I started talking about doing this, and Tom's really been a catalyst, not only with the Hall of Fame thing, but also making sure that Bill's name is propelled forward, whether it's at the anniversary of his passing, which is coming up in June. We always do this live podcast thing from or Facebook feed from Le Tub, which is a venue. We can talk about that in a little while. But Tom has been a huge proponent of moving Bill's name forward and getting Bill inducted. So to answer your question again, I don't have the time or the resources to make it to a lot of these expos, but Tom does. And because Tom ran IT for the NFL, he knows how to do this, like the back of his hand. So he'll go from expo to expo. He sets up the computer so people can sit down, sign the petition and whatnot. We've got a video screen. And man, the guy's been superb because, again, he makes it to all the places that I can. And he's been from Melbourne, Australia to, LA. Well, I've done LA. He's going to be in Toronto soon. He just goes all over the map. And he probably does 80%. Well, he does 100% of them. I do 20% of what he does. I make it out to those that I can.
And like I said, I know I'll talk to you afterwards, but I want you to get me, can you ship me a box of these so we can hand them out when we go to places too? I would like to do that for you.
I would love that. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Absolutely.
Not a problem. Because like I said, it's a work. Once I talked to you that day, like I said, it was such a pleasure meeting you up there and talking to you. And just after thinking about it, I was like, man, what a cause. I mean, if anything, I'd love, if we could do anything to help out, I think it would be, because one thing, like you said, that there is a change at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But, it's almost too little too late. They've messed up and screwed up for so many years. I know that they're trying to make amends, but,
I think you can always come.
You better start working a little harder.
You know what? So far they've inducted Rush, probably my all-time favorite band, and Cheap Trick, probably my second all-time favorite band, within a scope of 2 years, back to back.
I would like to see them, let us vote maybe some of the ones out that they let in that we didn't like to get in.
Like anybody that isn't a rock band.
Listen, that's not going to take fresh blood. That's going to take a blood transfusion, and I don't think that's going to happen. But,
there's that thing that says on the outside. It says Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They forgot that first part on some of these people, I think.
Well, hey, Roman. Can we step back for a minute? Would you said you on the anniversary of Bill's passing, you do a Facebook Live thing? Can you give more details about that so that we can direct the audience to that the day of the event?
Absolutely. So this happens every year. Bill passed away on June 28th of the year 2010. And we actually held two memorials for Bill. We were going to hold three, actually. We held one here in Miami or in South Florida. We held one in New York at the Hard Rock Cafe in Midtown. And we were going to hold one in LA. By the third one, I just couldn't. I didn't have it. I was done. But the first one happened at a place called Le Tub. Anybody who wants to Google this, Le Tub has kind of become an extension of the Kiss Walk of Fame, I guess. I don't know. Le Tub is a place. Le Tub is a ramshackle burger and beer joint made out of driftwood. And it was built into the Intracoastal Waterway of Hollywood, Florida. The Intracoastal Waterway, for those who don't know, is a waterway that separates the barrier islands of South Florida from the mainland. So it's a waterway, and there's La Tub, and it's this burger and beer place. And when Bill and I started seeing each other, we started going there because it was one of the few places where Bill could smoke cigars, and I could smoke cigarettes. And the truth is, you could do whatever you wanted. It was like the Wild West. Nudity, no problem. Drugs, you name it, whatever you want. You could do whatever you wanted at this place. And they were open from like 10 in the morning to 4 at night. So it became a thing. This became Bill and I's second home. And we would go like literally 4, sometimes 5 times a week. If people from the music industry were flying down, we'd take them to La Tub. If bands were in town, we'd go to La Tub. After a local show, we'd go to La Tub. If family was coming to town, we'd go. La Tub just became kind of the center of the universe. So when Bill died, we held a memorial there, and actually his ashes, his ashes were mostly poured into the Intracoastal Waterway at La Tub. And Suzanne Donahue, who you guys may have met Suzanne at the Indie Expo. Mm-hmm. Suzanne also worked for Bill in the 90s, and Suzanne would become like a surrogate daughter of Bill's. Bill thought of her as a daughter. And she donated a plaque, which now sits at Water One. Water One is the first table at the water, which was Bill and I's table whenever we went to La Tub. So if you go to La Tub these days and you go to Water One, there's a plaque made out to Bill. And if you go inside, there's actually a wall made out to Bill with signatures and photos and blah, blah, blah. So in any case, so because we held a memorial there, now every year on June 28th, it started with just a few friends. We'd have Bill's favorite drink, which is a sea breeze. For those of you that don't know, a sea breeze is vodka, grapefruit juice, and a splash of cranberry. But the truth is I drank margaritas all the time, so drink whatever the hell you want. Doesn't matter. The point is, on June 28th, at 8 p.m. Eastern time, right? Eastern, so that's like not you guys. That's
7 our time.
That's you, Bill. 7 o'clock. But 8 p.m. Eastern, wherever in the world you are, we raise a toast to Bill. And again, thanks to Bill, over the course of the last few years, we've been broadcasting this live through Facebook. And in fact, we actually have a second team now that sometimes will do a live broadcast from the Rainbow Room in LA. So we have 2 live feeds going on at once, and we all pay homage and toast Bill. So that'll be June 28th of this year, well, of every year, 8 p.m. Eastern. Just raise a toast to Bill Aucoin. And if you want to join us, either fly down to South Florida, check out La Tub, or just go to Facebook. Go to Facebook, Bill's Facebook page, which is Bill Aucoin on Facebook, and just go in and, oh, you know what? I'm not sure if I can friend you anymore. I think he's reached the number of his limit, but I think you can still go in and get on the live feed.
Okay, cool. We'll definitely do that. I'd like to be down there, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Check it out. If you go on the KISS cruise, I don't know if you guys go on the KISS cruise, but it's become kind of a pilgrimage now. A lot of people that go on the KISS cruise will go to La Tub the day before or the day before or the day after, which, for whatever it's worth, La Tub was voted by GQ magazine and Oprah Winfrey or the Oprah Winfrey Show as having the best burger in America.
Really?
In 1990 something or 2000 something. And I do think it rocks. You can make up your own mind. But anyways, but if you can't fly to La Tub, get on Facebook, get on Bill's Facebook page, and we'll be there June 28th.
Awesome. Yeah, we will definitely. This show will be out before that date, and we will also put it on our page. We'll make a reminder, and the day before, and we'll say, hey, check us out, and blah blah blah. We'll get it.
And if you don't do that, definitely go to inductbill.com. Sign the petition. By the way, it'll ask you for a donation afterwards. You don't have to donate. That doesn't go to us. So don't donate anything. But definitely sign the petition. If you want to leave a comment, you don't have to, but we won't discourage you.
Yeah, it just takes a minute. Just need an email address, and that's it. And
exactly.
Awesome. Well, Roman, we sure appreciate you coming on tonight. It was, like I said, it was a pleasure meeting you in Indianapolis, and hope to one of these days run into you again, and maybe we'll have a sea breeze and cheer, talk a little.
No, and thank you guys. Thank you. Listen, because I know you guys were those last 10 minutes of the expo. You guys were pedaling your asses off to get people to our booth. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for this, because again, this is what it's going to take, to make it happen. So
Exactly.
I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I think I can speak for Tom as well.
Exactly.
And for Bill.
Exactly. All right. Well, if you hang on here for just a second, we're going to close out and we'll talk to you here in a minute after we're off. Alan, you want to take us out of here, bro?
All right, folks. Till next time, check us out on 80sofrock.com. Hit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, all that good stuff. Till next week, peace out. Thanks for listening to the Ages of Rock podcast. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and most importantly, tell all your friends. Remember, you're never too old to rock. Until the next episode, peace out, folks.